Hello, happy Saturday. I promised a few folks that I would record myself making a bowl, and it's just about lunchtime. So be patient with me. This is going to be my first video trying to record this, but I'm going to try to slice it together in a bit to put the pieces together. But I think the first thing that you need to think about when you're making the bowls is making sure you have all the great ingredients at hand. So that starts with some grocery shopping. So I typically try to shop for really colorful things. I want to make sure I have protein, which I typically get through tofu, salmon. Sometimes I get some prepared tuna salad from Whole Foods. I might buy a rotisserie chicken, but primarily I'm sticking to tofu in most of my meals, salmon as a supplement. And every now and then I might have a steak or I might have some chicken. I really don't have any restrictions. I kind of go by what my body tells me it wants or needs. And so today, I think let's take a look and figure out what I'm going to pull out of the fridge for today's bowl. So here's a shot of my fridge, and as you can see, I got a lot of kind of good stuff in here. So when I talk about grocery shopping, I pretty much make sure that I have a lot of Sprouts is one of my main go-tos. I got some grapes here. I have some radishes. So you really just want to stock up on the things that you know you're going to eat and use. So I got some pepper, some zucchini, some asparagus, some green beans. And as I mentioned earlier this week, my grocery list had skewed pretty green, so I went out and got some additional fruits and veggies to sort of make it a little more colorful. I have some broccoli. I always use some sort of mixed greens for my base typically. I went back out and got some butternut squash, which I think I'll use today. Some watermelon. I used some microwave rice, and so I used about a half a cup in each bowl. So I got some leftovers that I'll probably pull out today. I got my tofu. I got some vegan pesto, some feta, some eggs, lots of veggies, and again, eggs and some olives and more veggies. I typically use some fruit and I'll save them and recycle them in the next day's bowls. So that's what the fridge looks like. Next step is to get things going. I already have the eggs. Well, I already have the water boiling. I have not put the eggs in yet. So let me go ahead and put the eggs in. What I will do is come back on when the eggs are done and show you what I've selected and what I put into the air fryer, which is what I use to make most of the things. I'll see you in a second. So we're back. As you can see, I have the eggs boiling. I've pulled out what I think will be the ingredients today. The tofu here, I'm gonna cut it up in a second. I thought I was gonna do a peanut sauce based tofu, but I realized I don't have any carrots in the house, and so I think some carrots and some cilantro. Think about what you might eat in a Thai restaurant that's pretty good. So I have my big white bowl here. I think I got this bowl from Kroger, and it's pretty big. I think it's probably 12 inches around. It's from Dash of That. I think my mom found one for my sister. So I start off with my big white bowl, which I'll put here on the stove while the eggs are boiling. I'm trying to use my hands and do this at the same time. I don't have a tripod. So I'm gonna go ahead and, this is some of the mixed greens I really enjoy, Queen City greens. So I'm gonna go ahead and use some of these greens and just go ahead and place them at the bottom of the bowl. I used to do the whole bowl with greens, but I figure when I have it actually saves some space when I go to put the fruit in to just kind of isolate the greens over there. I might put the tofu on top. If I do salmon, I'll put the salmon on top. I'll put the eggs on top. But okay, so there's the base. I have my tofu here, and this tofu I actually bought is organic baked turmeric tofu from Jenny's Tofu. I'm also a big fan of Kroger brand and Nasoya, but I like extra firm tofu. I'm going to cut this up into cubes and put it into the air fryer for about 12 to 15 minutes at 375. I'll also put the butternut squash in at the same time into the air fryer because it takes a little longer to get soft. I actually put most of my vegetables in the air fryer. Sometimes I'll use the oven, but the broccoli I'll put in just for 4 minutes, so I'll do it by itself right before the plate's ready. So let me cut this stuff up, put it in the air fryer, and I'll be back. So I have the rice out of the microwave. I use a half cup measuring cup to kind of form the rice. I push it down in there so that when I put it into my bowl, it just has some shape to it and I can kind of move it around. I'll place it on top of the greens. So I just flip it, and there you can see I have a nice little formed shaped, shape of rice. And so I have the air fryer going right now with the butternut squash and the tofu. And so what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and take a look and see what kind of fruit I want to use, and I'll go ahead and start to layer the fruit in while I wait for the air fryer to get done. So typically, I've pulled out some raspberries, I've pulled out some blueberries. I like these strawberries, they're huge, and when I go to use 3 of them, it makes it really, really big. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these up. I'm going to cut up the other half of this pear, and I'll add some blueberries and or raspberries to the bowl, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like. So as you can see, I cut up strawberries. That's just 3 strawberries. This is half of a pear and a little bit of blueberries. One of the things I try to do, and I'm getting better at, is gauge how much space I have. So let's think about it. I want to put some broccoli here. I want to put some butternut squash here. I'm going to have the egg, and I'm going to have the tofu. So I think that for today's meal, the tofu is going to go right on top of the greens here. I have some space for the broccoli here, and the butternut squash can go next to it here. And then the egg will lay on top of, in one of these little crevices, and that's how I'm going to build the bowl. Because I'm doing the tofu, I actually have some Gotham Greens vegan pesto that I will toss the tofu in when it comes out of the air fryer. So I'll show you that next. So I pulled the tofu out and the butternut squash after about 9 minutes. I just kind of check it and taste test the butternut squash. So I've added the butternut squash to the bowl. You also see I realized I pulled some grapes out, so I went ahead and added those to the side. I also pulled some cucumbers out. I cut some of this off for Coco, and an avocado. So I'm gonna see how those line up in the dish. And so what I wanna show you is I take this vegan pesto, and it's kind of need to have a little stir. I'm gonna get a fork. So I have the vegan pesto. I'm gonna stir it up a little bit, and then I just take a big dollop and I just toss it in there, and I'll just sort of make sure that all the tofu gets coated. Pretty straightforward. I'm just making sure all the tofu gets coated. And I use 2 blocks of tofu, but I'm only going to use about half this tofu in the bowl. And then tomorrow I'll have more tofu already ready that doesn't have to be air fried, that I could just heat up in the microwave or on the stove top. Probably the microwave because I'm pretty lazy. So there we have the tossed tofu. And if you see, I have my half cup measuring cup. I'm just gonna get a big old scoop of tofu, and I'm just gonna toss it right there on top of the greens. I might grab a few more pieces, and there's the tofu. The rest of the tofu, like I said, I'll use tomorrow. So the last piece that can go right here will be the broccoli that I need to put into the air fryer. And so as I start to think about, oh look, I have these cucumbers, I'm just gonna sort of lay the cucumbers down there. Look at those cucumbers, look so good. The other thing I like to do is I do like to use some spices. So you might have seen my bowls with watermelon. I'm a big fan of putting feta and dill on top of the watermelon, but I have some everything and the bagel seasoning I like to put on top of the tofu, the rice, and the veggies. All right, so next up, we just need to get the broccoli down, the egg, and the avocado, and then we'll have a done bowl. I'll be right back. So the bowl's just about done. As you can see, I made the broccoli a little crispy. I've added it. I added the egg, and I kind of just sort of pushed the cucumber over so I could fit the egg near the tofu and the rice, because when I eat, I'll probably just go ahead and stir the rice, the tofu, and the egg all together. It's a really good combo with that pesto. One last thing I'm gonna do is with the egg, I'm gonna come back in here and add a little bit more of this everything and the bagel seasoning. I do a lot of seasonings because pesto is pretty much the limit for my dressing. I eat everything pretty dry. So this is my bowl for today. I hope it's been helpful. I'll see how I can slice this. Apologies for my shoddy camera work, but this should give you the gist. Keep following along. It's just really a guideline. Take what you like, put it into a bowl. Pretty simple. Thank you guys so much for following my big white bowl. Bon appetit. It's time for me to eat.